point, as some of you might remember, and he had the courage to initiate a paradigm shift in the textbooks of the country. Very few people would undertake that, even if it is the government favored policy. Very few people would take it with sincerity, with faith, and with the conviction that it is primarily for the good of the country. And I had followed it all very well and deeply, and from my own understanding I can vouch that Professor Rajput did a splendid job. Anyway, that is part of history, very important part of history. I have a feeling that now in the country, due to various reasons, not just because of the reason of change of power in the political leadership, but for various reasons, there is going to be another paradigm shift. And that a process of thinking and rethinking has seriously to begin. This small talk perhaps is a minor contribution in that direction. And as I said, I am thankful for him to come and preside here. So I request him to take over the chairpersonship of the evening today, Professor Rajput.
Thanks, Professor Gupta, for the kind words. Yes, expectations are very high that the paradigm shift will take place. It has to take place. If country has to move ahead, things must change in education. And there is only one thing that I would mention initially. It is acknowledged world over that education in every country must be rooted to its culture and committed to progress. These four words say it all. We do not have that situation. We have a transplanted system of education. So that Professor Bharat told me that he will be talking about Dharmshastras in the current context. I was delighted. We need to talk to the young people in the idiom of the day. But we have to tell them what are our knowledge traditions, treasures of knowledge. And in this context that I am here, I am grateful to you, Bharatji, for giving me this opportunity to be with you and listen to you. Now I invite Bharatji to carry on.
So here I am presenting before you what I consider a very vital issue and a hotly contested issue, which I believe has something to do with not just education or thought, but with the very articles of faith on which our present socialist secular state is founded and on which the practice of the state is going on for the last 63 years. So I'll begin with a small Mangalachara, 2 lines from Tulsi's. Varnanam artha sanghanam rasanam chandasamapi Mangalanam chakartarav vande Vani Vinaya. Vani of Vinaya I worship because Varnanam artha sanghanam rasanam chandasamapi. All these things Vani constitutes of. I could perhaps say more on just this one line, and that itself can become a lecture about the profundity and the unity of our literature, which goes back to last 5,000 years. Recorded literature, known literature, not just surmised, beginning with the Agnimede Purohitam, the Rig Samhita, right down to the present day. And there is a unity in it. The most significant feature of Indian culture has been certain texts which were written in order to discipline various areas of activity, human activity. And they were called the Shastras. There were many kinds of Shastras. And out of this, there was one category which was called the Dharma Shastras. And out of Dharma Shastra, there is the most famous, which is the Manusmriti. And the Manusmriti has been the target of the highest criticism in modern India. Now, the Dharma Shastras have been looked upon in a certain way. I say they have only been looked upon because they have not been read. They have not been thought about. Even a great scholar, Bharat Ratna P.V. Kane, gives us a massive account of what was the history of Dharma Shastras. But the cardinal question as to how are those Dharma Shastras related to our present day life is not the subject either of Mahamahopadhyaya P.V. Kane or all those for the past 67 years of India's independence, for all those who write about the intellectual traditions of India, the relevance, the connection of the Dharma Shastras to our present day life has not been examined. As a matter of fact, it is taken for granted that this is something of the past. ये तो साहब थे, कभी थे, लाइब्रेरी में हैं, जीवन में कभी थे, लाइब्रेरी में हैं. That's all. They were in the library. They are in the libraries, and they were connected with our life once. Now there is the Indian Constitution. Everybody seems to think that what operates, what matters, and what is the last word by which we must live and have to live is the present day Indian Constitution. But tell me, is it possible that a culture which is more than 7,000 years old, can a culture be governed and be concerned only with something which was written in 1950? What about all those texts which wanted to govern and lay out the purpose of your life? What about all those texts which gave you directions about it for thousands of years? Do they have no consequence today? Yes, they have. Because the people of India, the people of Bharat, still live by them. They do not live just by the modern secular Indian Constitution. There is so much more by which they live. However, there is today this kind of willful, almost oppressive forcing that we must think of the Shastras as something of the past. This afternoon, early afternoon, I invited a lady of great consequence who manages an institution in the name of Gandhi to come and listen to my lecture, and I told her about what I am going to talk about. And she only told me, yes, it's good to read the Dharmshastras, but we must not forget that there has been social injustice. So whenever we talk of Dharmshastras, we must not forget social injustice. I said, what you mean, madam, is untouchability and the lowest status of Shudras. Is that not what you mean? The Dharmshastras are much more than that. The Dharmshastras are far more than that. And I said that you are an admirer of Dr. Ambedkar, madam. He made the constitution, and I am sure he read the Dharmshastras. And when he was finalizing, well, it was not fully finalized, but thought about the Hindu Marriage Act. Why did he not include the Gandharva Vivah in it, which is part of what Manu has said? I'll come to that later on, but this is just what I tried to bring her. He said, no. What is very important, that Ambedkar was concerned with untouchability. Now, this is exactly the problem. We, first of all, have only read one or two lines from here and there, selective reading. And we have presumed that in the modern world, in today's world, we are the best. We are the most progressive. The present is the best time. The present is the most enlightened time. The ancients, whether the Greeks or the Romans or the Egyptians or the Chinese, they had civilization but faulted ideas. That there were not sufficient human rights and gender equality. And we are so arrogant today about these concerns of ours that we do not admit the single fact that these were civilizations that lasted for thousands of years and were richer than what even we are today. And hence there must be something in those civilizations which sustain them and about which we learn. So, this is the arrogance of what I call presentism. That present thought is the best thought. And what are some of the features? I found a shlok somewhere which says Shastropeksha Varna Garhana Paramartha Vaimukhyata Sampradaya Pramadascha Vyakhya Chaturbhir Hata. That all talk and analysis today has been ruined by 4 cardinal problems. Shastra ki upeksha. Don't look at the Shastra. Don't read Manusmriti. Just read a few lines here and there. The Shudras were not allowed to study the Vedas. As if all people are allowed to study nuclear physics today. You know, it's the same thing. Are they allowed to, is everybody allowed to go to IIT today? So, Shastropeksha. And hence the Shastra should be upeksha. They are nowhere. They are not part of the education system. Tomorrow at Bharati Vidya Bhavan at 5, I am giving a lecture on Shastra or Adhunik Shiksha, ek nayi soch in Hindi, to bring in the idea that they should be part. So today, upeksha, shastropeksha, varna garhana. And the varnashram has been considered as an evil feature of Indian culture. Right from maybe third class or fourth class onwards, Rajputji will be able to tell me more accurately. It is prescribed in the text that the caste hierarchy was a bad feature of Hinduism. And then Paramartha Vaimukhyata. You don't have to consider a higher goal in life, Paramartha, other than what is immediately before me. My present purpose, my immediate purpose is all that I should be satisfied. There should be no higher goal, Paramartha in life. And then Sampradaya Pramana, that the present day world has the best of the thought. It is the most evolved. It is the most cultured. It is the most sophisticated. It is the one that inherits all cultures and hence is the best. This is exactly the approach, and that is why. Now, let me first tell you that why Shastras should be read. And why should Manusmriti be read? What is so specific about Manusmriti? Shall I go on or should I stop? क्यों जी? मुझे रुकना है या कंटिन्यू करूं? हाँ. So the reason why all European thought seems to dominate today is because that thought is centered on man and the interests of man. It is what is called anthropocentric. That the anthropos in Greek, the word anthropos means man, children and man. That man, this world is made for man. There is no other purpose. It is for the sake of man that this whole creation is. This is the approach that developed in Europe around 16th century, 15th, 16th century. And it dominates our thinking in every field today. At the center of the universe, man is placed, and every other living creature and every natural thing is for the sake and to service of man. Now, the Dharma Shastras present an entirely different picture. Dharma Shastras do give us the Manava Dharma, or what man should do, or how man should live by. But the Dharma Shastras don't talk of the interest of man only. Man is not exclusive. Man is special. God has created everybody. God loves everybody. Sab mam priya, sab mam upajaye. Everything, every part of creation is loved by me, has been created by me, and men are very dear to me, but they are not the only one I look after. Now the Dharma Shastras talk about the creation of a universe in which man is only a part. You see, if you look at it seriously, man being a part is an interchangeable human being. The creation can go on without man, without human beings, Homo sapien. And if you take the idea of reincarnation, then one who is a human being, man or woman today, can be an animal or a dog in the next life. You see the very big difference between the European-centered thought that man is the only creation. Why is it today that just after almost 100 years of great technological excellence and great comforts, just as we have around here today, the air-conditioned room and light and everything, just after 100 years of this civilization, we are at an acute environmental crisis. Because we placed man at the center. This is no longer any theorizing. It is now a question of life and death. And then can you still come around and say that Dharmshastras have no meaning? That they are just grandma's tales? That they are texts that have no purpose today? I will also give you a quick run of what actually Dharmshastras consist of. What is the subject? You see, first of all, they start with Utpatti. Whether it is Manu, whether it is Yajnavalkya, whether it is some other, Gautam, etc., they all start with the idea that there is a creation and a big total creation in which man is placed. And after that, there is also something or the other written about, I don't have the time to quote from the text today, about what is the purpose of creation. What is the purpose of human life? And why there is this order. And let us also remember that the Dharmshastras are not a commandment. They are not just 10 commandments that man has to do this and man has to do that. The most beautiful thing about Dharmshastras is that they talk about any social dharma or social obligation or rule of conduct as something which is not eternal, which changes with time. There is no commandment for all times to come. There is a very big difference between the Western thought, which is primarily Semitic, which is primarily based on the Old and the New Bible, in which there is the approach of an eternal law given in stone to Moses and later on given by the Christian fathers